Start? All right, so I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Dukes County
Recording in
Commissioners,
progress.
Wednesday, November 15th at 4 o'clock p.m. Remote and in-person participation on this occasion. First thing on the agenda is the minutes of November 1st. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so moved in second, all in favor. I guess because we're, just say that. We're
We're
not
all-
remote, oh well, because we are part remote, I guess we have to do.
No, we don't
our-
have any, we don't have any
We have no
members.
commissioners.
All the commissioners
There's
are
nobody
here.
out there. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm gonna abstain because I haven't read them.
Okay. They are passed. Okay, next on our agenda, Jim Malkin, thank you so much for joining us. Steamship Authority representative update. I want to thank you for coming before us. We do this quarterly and appreciate all the work that you're doing. There's a lot of issues to discuss tonight, and we'd like your candid presentation of what's going on, in your opinion, with the Steamship Authority and how we can help support you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, would you
Yep.
mind if I kind of start with a comment for our steamship friends? Or would you rather we start with Jim?
What do you want to start with?
I just wanted to make a comment of a couple of things about the recent incident,
Okay,
just to kind of put them on the table for the discussion.
that's okay, yeah, and I want a general update as well, so.
Yeah, I don't, this is quick. So I just wanted to share for us to kind of, the context of this discussion, at least two observations. One is, I think this last incident is a big deal that we really do need to spend a lot of time talking about, way more than a lot of the other kinds of things about the Steamship Authority that have come up before.
And specific to the sanctity,
Yes.
right?
And it's,
Okay.
and the reason I think so is, one, I'm concerned about kind of the shaking public confidence, which is often shaken for not good reasons, and this one strikes me as one that is shaken for real reasons. The issue of safety. The one that just gets me, given kind of what I've done for a living, is the fact that this, as we understand it now, wasn't shared with the board. Makes me really wonder about transparency, and I'd like to hear from you guys how you see that. Maybe it's different, and even raises a broader question just about how effective is this organization. And the other comment is just, I'm hoping we get to some discussion of follow-up. It seems to me, from the little bit I know now, that the questions are things like, does this call for an organization review? Does it call for, there is reference to a continuous improvement process, which is great, but it makes me wonder also what that looks like. Is there some kind of management performance assessment as part of this as well? And I guess the final comment is, hopefully it's not nothing.
Hopefully.
It's not nothing as a follow-up. I just wanted to help kind of set the table.
May I follow up on that?
Sure.
My colleague is way more polite than I am. I
The
find,
bar is low.
I mean, my initial thought was enough is enough. Somebody out in the public mentioned to me that they thought this was just an egregious event. And my immediate response was, the egregious event was in 2018 when we had 3 boats out and weeks of disruption. This, to me, as an outside observer, rises to gross negligence. We're talking about and I'm not a mariner, I know very little about boats, but we're talking about tying up a boat for the day, which seems to me to be the most basic thing, so that it's secure and safe for everybody. And thank you for the timeline. It took 3 hours from the time the Nantucket noticed that it wasn't secured properly until the first of the 2 bow lines broke loose. It was about an hour before the Nantucket apparently called the port captain. I don't understand why somebody didn't just run out there and fix the lines. I was going to say common sense, but maybe it's uncommon sense these days. So I'm pretty annoyed, to say the least. And frankly, Jim, you know, it goes back to how the board has rated the management of the steamship for years until very recently, providing relatively high marks and raises. And I can tell you the public doesn't get it. And at this stage, I certainly don't get it. So I just wanted to register that level of upset. And it's not just me. I mean, I come from a background of consulting to manufacturers and distributors. I'm very familiar with what it takes to run an operational organization and keep it running smoothly. And I'm sorry, but you know, if you refuse to hire a chief operations officer, that alone is enough of a signal. So, and I'm going to close with one item, and that is that I saw something in the paper about somebody, I think one of your colleagues, talking about not renewing the manager's contract. But it seems to me any contract worth its ink is going to have a gross negligence clause, and I think this rises to it.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Thank
time.
you, Doug.
Madam Chair, just one last comment. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Peter.
So I did appreciate getting the timeline that you provided. I think that was very helpful. You know, the one thing that really stuck out to me was this is an incident that occurred on, let's see, July 27th. July 27th, right? So the ship breaks loose, and there's a in the timeline it says it's between, this is military time, 1721 and 1735, so approximately 5:20 in the afternoon. Staff telephones Falmouth Port Council and board members and advises about the incident. What I find most problematic is that what happened on that day obviously did not rise to, or maybe it did, rise to a level of immediacy or completeness or transparency about what actually occurred. I get it that in that moment, you don't know everything. You're not supposed to know everything. But at that moment, you know, the alarm's gone off, and every single board council member, every single board member should be on high alert and be fully informed by the management of the Steamship Authority about exactly what's occurred. And that part, the lack of transparency, not just to the public, but to you guys, it's embarrassing. It's horrible place, you know, for a position for anybody, you know.
Thank you, Peter. Jim?
Sure. Tristan?
I was gonna keep my mouth shut. Okay. But I will say this, and
He can't.
I can now since you said Tristan. I was gonna be quiet, but now I'm not gonna talk about this incident per se. Before you were our Steamship Authority rep, they went out for a search for a manager, and I've known the current manager is a great guy. Worked with him for many years, and with Mr. Sayer and the whole team there. But when they went out for a manager, and I remember saying, and I've maybe said this before, I'm old, I repeat myself, I apologize, but I said, I hope you guys are going to look outside, and this was before your watch, I want to say, outside for someone to bring in some new ideas to the, and I was told, oh yeah, we're going to do that. And then your predecessor, very nice man, came back and proudly announced to us that they had suspended their search looking outside, that they had found a candidate from within. And I was very disappointed at that. Again, nothing personal against Mr. Davis, but he's had to learn on the job. He didn't have the experience, plus we didn't bring in new ideas, new thinking, new organization. So I think some of that goes back to that decision. And I know he's done the best he can. There are areas where Mr. Davis has been very forthcoming on certain, things that we've dealt with. But I think that was the issue. In the long look of things, that we didn't hire someone with new ideas, with really a true experience in running a large organization like this. I think it's been learning on the job. So I guess you didn't ask, but that's my 2.5 cents on this.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I'm just going to say, in general, there are issues, big time, that need to be explored and uncovered, okay? And the only way we're going to move forward is to uncover them, expose them publicly, and then try to find a remedy to them. It's not going to be comfortable. There's going to be upset, and I don't know how you're going to find consensus among your board to achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve. But I think we're all looking for some sort of positive resolution to this, right? Forget about the individual incident of the Sankaty. I mean, that obviously is a big snafu that, you know, we're all looking at right now. But that is indicative of much more systemic problems within the organization that I would like you to address right now, if you can.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. Let me try and give you a timeline specifically to this event. But first, as some of you will recall, when I first interviewed for this position, I said that what I saw, the Steamship Authority needed accountability in top management, needed process improvement, and needed communications improvement. And I said the three goals were boats running on time, with better communication to the traveling public, and reasonably economic fare levels. I went into and in my interview, what was I found interesting, after the interview, Warren Doty, the select person from Chilmark at the time, who was there, told me after, he said, it sounded like you were interviewing to be a CEO. You're actually interviewing to be a board member. And there was something in that I hadn't realized. That I did approach it because my career has been a CEO, my career has been a chairman, my career has been able to work with a board to get things done, a united board, and to fix things. And what I perhaps naively didn't understand is that each of the board members, of the 5 board members, have different constituencies and have different views, which is fair enough. You will note from the recent reviews of Mr. Davis, who I need to tell you is an extremely hardworking, very knowledgeable individual, puts in a huge amount of time, but has been critiqued constructively, I had hoped, by me since the very first review I participated in 4 years ago, for micromanaging, for not holding people accountable, and for not fixing some of the organizational issues that I saw at the Steamship Authority. This all, I think, was pointed out with the last review that we had, which was on the 24th of October, where I graded him with a 65. Mr. Jeffries from Falmouth graded him equally low. And it was pointed out that over time, that each of our port communities does have different concerns. Nantucket has fewer trips, far fewer trips. We have 1,400 trips a week. They have far fewer.
We have 1,400 trips a week?
In Martha's Vineyard.
Wow.
Yep, that's to and from.
I understand.
Now you've thrown me off.
You started with Nantucket, you were going
Right,
to the 4
and,
towns.
and Nantucket they basically view the Steamship Authority as a boat line, because we have so many trips and we rely upon going to Falmouth so often for medical, for shopping and so on. We kind of view it as a bridge. We need it there when we want it there. We want to go over in the morning, we want to get our shopping or repair or medical done, and then we want to come back in the afternoon. So there, I get the fact that there are different demands. And I've presented to you a timeline. You had asked Christine for a written report. Bob Davis provided us this timeline. I've also presented to you some facts about operations as well. You have that, all of the commissioners have that. But I think it's important that we focus on the Sankaty incident, because to me, the Sankaty incident is an example of all of the things that I find need to be improved at the Steamship Authority. There's an issue of accountability. There's an issue of transparency. There's an issue of operational processes. There's an issue of communication proactively, not just to the communities we serve, but to the board and the Port Council. Now, in my tomes here, which are all steamship related, according to the Enabling Act, hang on while I get the right piece of paper. Joe, somewhere in here. Oh, yes. Sorry. According to the bylaws, the members of the authority, that's the board, have charge of and supervise the management, operation, and direction of all business and affairs of the authority. So the board is responsible for that. I'm a member of the board. I have 35% of the vote, Nantucket has 35% of the vote. Both New Bedford, Hyannis, and Falmouth have 10% each. We cannot, in my opinion, be effective as a board to do what I've just stated if we don't have information. I am very unhappy, and I have said this to the press, and perhaps you have read it, that for 3 days, the vote not being secured properly was known, and memos were written, but nothing was done to prevent 3 days later this vote breaking loose. And I would suggest to my board colleagues, to our community, and the port communities we serve, that had this vote broken loose in Hyannis, had it broken loose in Nantucket, it could have been a catastrophe. It wasn't. And I did make the comment, the only good news is that no one died. And that's real, no one did die. But
I think it's not an airline.
Can I ask you
Sure.
something?
Yeah.
So, what response have you had from your fellow board members with regards to this incident and the potential impact it may have had it not happened the way it did?
We have not had a board meeting to discuss this. There's an open meeting law. There is, I have seen comments in the newspapers from Mr. Jeffries of Falmouth, and his comments will speak for himself. We need to, I intend to bring up at the board this issue in serious and strong terms. May I just finish for a minute? Because I think that it's this issue of in my view, an operational failure, which was known about for 3 days, and then the boat broke loose. That's a communication issue, that's an internal issue. The fact that we wrote memos to people to tie the boat off better, as opposed to tying the boat off better, is astonishing to me. The fact that the Port Council here and the board didn't know of this is astonishing to me. The fact that I found out about this from a Freedom of Information request, it was published in the MV Times on the 27th, I believe, of October, which is the first time I heard about it, walking into a Martha's Vineyard Bank Corporators meeting, at which point I heard a lot about it. And in fact, Joe had sent me a text that I read on the way into the meeting, and that's what I knew. That's not good communication. That is not giving the board the information that it needs to make decisions to run the authority. The other issue I find of real concern was the statement that I read which was the reason that the authority, didn't talk about this or go public with this, had to do with the fact that there were personnel issues involved. And the SQMS, which is a training program, we want to encourage people to be forthcoming. I absolutely agree we want people to be forthcoming. But it seems to me, one, that if people are forthcoming with the boat isn't tied off and nothing happens about it, it's not encouraging good communication or any communication. Two, if the issue was the confidentiality of discipline processes from this investigation, that's why we have executive sessions. This could have been discussed with the board in an executive session. It wasn't. The first time your port counsel and myself learned of this was the Tuesday night. The next day, we met at Martha's Vineyard Airport with the general manager. And the general manager told us that the concern was discussing this given the disciplinary issues. We raised our points. We expressed our serious misgivings about management, about communication, about what this speaks to in terms of the issues that you commissioners have raised, and frankly, the impact on our community. So given all of that, this is going to come up at the board. The board will have to make a decision, and I sincerely hope that my other board members understand the gravity, not only the gravity of this situation, but what it says about what we need to do at the Steamship Authority. It will be a board decision. I will make my case as plainly as I'm making it to you, and I hope to be compelling. You'll remember that when 3 months into this position, 4 years ago, I was taken to task by other board members for asking questions and making statements to this group and not knowing what I was talking about. And I took that on board, and I say to you now, 4 years later, having spent a lot of time talking to people in the middle of the organization, at the top of the organization, at the bottom of the organization, having watched how things work, I do know what I'm talking about. Which is why, in the evaluation, I gave Mr. Davis a 65, which is, to me, from even with grade inflation, that's not a good grade. And I hope that my fellow board members and port council members will share the concerns that we have and use our powers to fix this situation appropriately.
So Jim, I have a question.
That's just Doug and then Dwight.
I'm sorry?
I just want to
We got
get
three.
Could you see? We've got.
Oh, there were
After-
hands up?
after-
Sorry,
No, no,
we're not
that's
on
us.
Zoom anymore. I can't see the hands up.
I was trying to be. Oh.
Sorry, all right. I'm focused right here on this
Yeah.
gentleman
Yeah.
who's presenting his argument and his position, not argument, but yeah, so I want to try to figure out how we can forge a path moving forward that is going to improve things. And I welcome your wisdom, your words, your advice on how we can do that, given the structure that you're dealing with who holds the weight with the votes and all that stuff on the board. You know, what can we do? What can we do here to empower you to make improvements? Peter, you had your hand up, I guess.
Jim,
Doug?
Doug, and then
Doug,
Don,
Peter,
and then
and
Well,
whoever else.
I have a very short question, which is simply that, I mean, everybody here has identified the Sankaty incident as a huge safety issue, which you rightly, in my opinion, categorize as being no different had it happened in Nantucket or Hyannis or anywhere else. So why wouldn't the awareness of the gravity warrant an immediate special meeting of the board to deal with it? Why wait until a scheduled meeting?
I think that's a great question, and I think that is something that would be best addressed to the chairman of the board,
Who is
Rob Rainey.
Nantucket?
Yes.
Okay, so is that something that we need?
Yes.
We can do. We can do
Yes.
that. We can, as a county commission, appointing our steamship authority rep, we can request that happen
I'll
ASAP.
just to get that ball rolling, I'll move that.
You're gonna move that? All right,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Do I have a
It's
second?
supposed to
You
be
do.
next Tuesday, but because,
following
but it's
28th.
the 28th now.
Yeah, the next board scheduled board meeting is the 28th.
All right, so we have a motion. and
After
a-
Thanksgiving.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So passes. Okay,
I
so,
think you should know that the member from Falmouth had already had a planned vacation. It was supposed to be this coming Tuesday, and that's one of the reasons why they continued it. It's very important, I think, that he be at your meeting.
Agreed.
May I say something, Mr.
yeah,
Chairman?
yeah.
I don't want to go out of order.
No, go, Jim.
But just relevant to what you guys just voted on. You might also address the same letter to the Nantucket Town Commissioners.
This one.
So not just the chair of the,
Is that a motion?
if I can't make
He
that.
used to be able to make motions.
All right, it used to be a vote.
I'll make that. I'll amend whatever you
Should
have.
be addressed to everybody.
Yeah, send it to
in
who-
To the world.
All the appropriate
Right. It
personnel.
might be appropriate to send it to the chairman and all the members of the board.
And can I make even if practically they can't meet before, I think this letter shows the gravity that we, the county commission, take. Hopefully they can meet before, but if not, I think will show that.
There's a reason there are multiple people on a board. The fact that somebody's on vacation, especially somebody with a minority vote, shouldn't stop a meeting.
Right.
And I thoroughly respect what you said, that ideally he should be there, especially since it happened in Falmouth. But I'm going to repeat it, it's a safety issue that could have happened in any port. And it warrants an
Time is of the
immediate,
essence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as you are pointing out relative to the timeline.
Don, you have?
Thank you. Yeah, two things. One, to what we just did. I would ask Chair and our friends here whether we're most efficient stopping and doing motions as we go, or do we maybe say, let's keep kind of a list of all the kinds of things we had come up with that we might do, and then do that at the end.
I apologize, Don.
Oh, no, I wasn't looking for an apology.
No, it's fine.
I could have,
But I
I
just-
could have waited.
It doesn't matter. As long as, I mean, I think it's great that we're coming up with actions. The thing I wanted to say, and Jim says I know preaching to the choir, but I think this is important. Everything that you have shared in these last few minutes points to that this is not an issue at the individual level. This is massive process failure. And so, for example, to say this is a personnel matter is quite frankly inappropriate. Yeah, there may be, in addition to process failures, individual discussions that need to happen, but that's not what we're looking at, and that to me is quite frankly scary.
Well, that's why I
Because
said
it's-
it's systemic.
Yeah, and it says that, at least from this data we have right now, that management is looking at this as an individual, you know, it's kind of like this guy on the gal on the production line put this piece in wrong. That's not the issue.
No.
The issue is the production line, and the issue is the management of process. So whatever the steps are, I guess all I'm saying is, and they're way beyond what our role is as a body, but everything we can do to encourage the steamship authority to step back and say, we really need an operational review, and whatever steps we need to be able to think process-wise and not individually.
Yeah, so I would like to give free to everyone here to not be polite and just lay it on the table and
Oh, you were next.
say what you feel to Jim.
Okay, so you know, I had a career in the Navy before I did anything else for a long time.
kayak boats, huh?
I do, and a lifelong, you know, on the water and sailing. I know about, you know, and what occurs to me is that this is not the first time this guy did this, right? Whoever it was learned a shorthand for tying the boat up, right? The quick and easy way to do that, and this is not the first place that he perhaps or whoever. This is a habit that was learned and reinforced by a crew, right? That it was okay to tie the boat up in this manner. This was the first time that somebody noticed it. I was interested to see, because I'm as you're standing shoreside, I'm guessing that she was in slip 3, right? 1, 2, 3. So on the 24th, this was noticed. There were multiple trips in slips 1 and 2 that occurred over those 3 days, right? You said 1,400 a day. So how many? I'm sorry.
A week.
Oh, wait. Okay, 14. So 200 a day.
24 boats a day.
Okay, so great. So how many boats were in slip 2? Right? That didn't say anything. How many boats were in slip 1 that didn't say anything? How many times did that boat leave slip 3? Right? How many people on the shore side who had to catch that line having worked, my very first job was at the Steamship Authority working in Oak Bluffs. I know how to catch the line. I know what's expected when the boat comes in as a shoreside dock person to secure the bow line of the boat. Did it in Oak Bluffs for an entire summer at the age of 15 to I was 16. So I understand what's required and was trained how to do that. But this is something that went on for a number of times that both shipside and shoreside thought was okay. And I guarantee you that this didn't just occur in Woods Hole. Every place that boat landed, whoever did that, I'm grateful. I'm not saying anything that people in Oak Bluffs or people in Vineyard Haven, did something different, but this is a behavior that was learned, that it was okay.
And that people seeing it, the behavior
Didn't
was also
report.
learned not to report.
Correct. I'm grateful to the master of the Nantucket. I am grateful to the master of the governor for noticing something and saying something. As we learned later on through the Freedom of Information Act, there were other people who noticed. I'm glad that there were upstanders in the organization who felt that they could be reporters, mandatory reporters when it came to a safety issue. But it doesn't appear that that's the culture.
May?
Well, and
Yes.
the fact that it didn't end up in a positive.
Well, if this had happened, like you said, in any other harbor,
Motion.
if the tide had been gone in a different direction, if the wind had been blowing someplace else, this could easily have been blocking the Woods Hole entirely.
I'm also a mariner, and I know how to catch a monkey fist, and I know how to make a line, and I know how to fasten a line, and you put a figure eight down, and you put the line underneath, and all the rest of that stuff. You don't
Right.
leave it loose.
You get a license to do that.
I have talked about the culture in the Steamship Authority being reactive, not proactive. This is an example of reactive. This is an example of a situation where action wasn't taken. This is a process failure, and I consider this to be serious. As I've said, this is a problem. This is a big problem that is indicative of an underlying culture and organization that I think is siloed, and I've said this, that does not communicate well between departments, and I've said this, doesn't communicate well to the traveling public, and I've said this. So I don't disagree with anything that the commissioners have said here. And I believe that I am doing the best that I can. I will continue to represent this community to attempt to get done what I believe needs to get done.
So how do you think that's going to happen? How do you think that's going to manifest itself? Do you know?
All I can do as one board member is continue to put the facts of this kind of stuff in front of the board at all meetings. I'm not talking about opinions, I'm talking about facts. This situation is a fact. These gentlemen didn't know about it, I did not know about it, that is a fact. People in the organization knew about it for 3 days, we didn't know about it, that's a fact. The lines weren't secured, that's a fact. Joe Salito asked about this at 2 Port Council meetings. That's a fact. Did he get this information? No.
In fact, I'll read to you minutes of the meeting that on the 1st of August, after it came in the newspaper.
Please do.
Just the item 5 here. Mr. Higgins then provided an update on the investigation into the recent incidents involving the MV Sankaty becoming unmoored from the Woods Hole terminal slip. Mr. Higgins said that the vessel broke free from its berth at approximately 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 27th, on 2023, and struck the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution dock. He said the authority was extremely fortunate that there was no loss of life or serious damage. The authority is taking the situation with utmost seriousness and said the incident is unacceptable and cannot take place. A root cause analysis will follow. Until then, Mr. Davis said it was premature to make any determination as to what the cause of the situation was. Mr. Solito asked, when the vessel is tied up, how many lines are on it? Mr. Higgins said 2 soft lines forward, 2 soft lines stern, and 2 cables to the transfer bridge and the shore power connection. Mr. Solito then asked how many lines were on the vessel on the day in question. Mr. Higgins said 2 forward, 1 stern, and 2 on the transfer bridge, and a shore power connection. Mr. Solito noted, and Mr. Higgins confirmed, the vessel still broke away. Mr. Davis noted that until the investigation was completed, all statements received would be premature and to make any determination as to what that cause was. And the way it was said, it was basically cut off.
I'm sorry, say that again, I missed that.
He said, Mr. Davis noted that until the investigation was completed and all statements received, it would be premature to make any determination as to what the cause was.
And who was cut off?
That was basically, the newspaper account, if you read it in the Times, said basically that I was cut off. The part that I was upset about this, that we asked these questions on the 1st of August, and the incident took place on the 27th. We really didn't get much of an explanation. We met on Tuesday, the 26th
Which one?
of
Which meeting?
October, excuse me.
Yeah.
We met, what day?
24th.
The 24th of October. We met the 24th of October. On the 24th of October, we had a very casual get together in person. We met in person for the Port
In
Hudson
Falmouth.
in Falmouth.
Yeah.
John and I went over. After the meeting, they had some pastries. I sat down. I was going to go to BJ's because I had the day off, and we just talked for a few minutes. Nothing was made mention about the Freedom of Information Act or anything else. There was nobody else around. It wasn't part of a meeting or anything else. Something could have been said. On Wednesday, we read about it in the newspaper. We were blindsided. I happened to read it at about 4:30. I texted Jim, I said, have you read the Times? And he said, no, I'm going into a function at 5 o'clock. And that's how we got it. My biggest concern since I've been on there is the same as Jim's, it's communication. And I've been Port Council for 2.5 years. The other is they react, they don't anticipate to situations. And that's not the way it should be. And I think this was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It's been building up month by month by month. And this is just the climax. Unfortunately, it could have been a very serious climax.
Thanks. Doug?
Yeah, I want to follow on Don's comment about this being systemic throughout. We knew that.
I'm sorry, can I ask a quick question before John leaves?
Yeah.
I'm trying to go to a select board meeting.
Well,
That's why I have to.
okay, but if you don't mind, I just...
Before you
since
leave,
you've-
it's pertinent
Just
to you
asking.
apparently, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's that you're the only one in this room who has sat both at the commission table and now at the Port Council table. And I'm just curious from your perspective, to not lose it before you leave,
Yeah.
back to your question, from your 360 point of view, do you have any suggestions for the commission as to how we are most helpful?
I think that's a great idea that Tristan came up with, making sure that you do contact all the towns. But now that you've given me a platform to speak, I would say
Please.
one of the other concerns that we should discuss is, in my view, the senior management of the Steamship Authority was not, I don't want to call it, whatever you want to call it, misleading.
It's called a cover-up.
You can choose your words, but that's one of the concerns that I think the three of us have.
You were not given the full amount
Anywhere
of
along the
information.
way, and
Yeah.
there's no Joe asked in the meeting, so that's a big concern. Sorry, I gotta go.
Thanks, I'm gonna say.
Thank
Thank
you.
So if I may continue.
Yep.
So you said this was a serious systemic problem. Well, we knew that back in 2018 when 3 boats were out of service simultaneously, multiple weeks went by with problems, and your predecessor demanded an outside review, which took some doing to get, but we got it, and a fairly comprehensive, frankly to my surprise, candid review revealed all of that. This is not news. This is not news. And that is the most No, it's the second most annoying thing. The most annoying thing is the cover-up. And I'm calling it that because it sure looks like it. And, you know, again, egregious, I don't know if it's malfeasance, but it's egregious. And I would really ask, and we'll do it in a letter, that you guys take a really serious look at this. And I understand you are, Jim, and I understand that you have a minority vote. Nobody has, you know, full authority. But unfortunately, you use the word hope, which in my world doesn't get a lot done. It's not a plan. But I will urge my fellow commissioners and anybody else I talk to communicate as strongly as possible with your colleagues that this needs to be addressed in way more than words. I'm sure everybody will talk it to death if allowed to, but it needs to be acted upon.
So I have a question,
Yeah.
and that is, Jim, when you're looking at your fellow board members, what is the problem with them not seeing this for what it is? My question is, it seems very apparent to us that there has been a lack of good judgment on the part of management at the steamship with regards to this situation and others. Why is it that you are seeing it and others are not? Like what? I guess I'm asking, can you enlighten us as to what, I mean, we can write a letter, but are we?
I can't speak for the other board members. I do know from the comments that were made in public at our meeting that we have different expectations on this island than Nantucket does of the Steamship Authority.
Well, with regards to a boat getting loose and drifting
I
and,
cannot speak to that
Okay.
issue. You know when I knew what I knew. You know what we have all read in the newspapers from the Falmouth board member, from myself, and from the Steamship Authority, from Mr. Davis. I can't speak for the board. I hope that the facts of this situation are sufficient for people, fellow board members, to understand why this community views this issue and what it says about the authority's operation with the seriousness that I think this issue deserves.
You know,
And
Jim,
all that sounds like nice sentences. I have to work with the board to get something done. I have to make my position known, which clearly I'm doing right now, and I'm responding to what I've heard from the people who've appointed me. And I will do everything I can to represent the interests of this island and the commissioners.
Jim, what surprises me about that is, I mean, to your earlier point in terms of volume and for us it's a bridge, totally get that. But the danger that we're talking about, the safety issue, would be the same in all 5 port towns, right?
Right.
If this happened in Nantucket, it would have the same risk profile, I assume, and the same with all of the others. So in this particular issue, it would feel as though all 5 towns have the same skin in the game. And so I'm just wondering whether or not there might be some way to get the 5 to at least look at this particular incident together. To your point earlier, Joe, if one does a root cause analysis, the root cause analysis I think we're all saying is likely to show massive process problems. And maybe that provides us a way to at least start addressing the process problems.
It's a process problem, It's a protocol problem.
It's a leadership problem.
Communication
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
It's an organizational problem.
Yes.
And the accountability starts at the top.
Yeah. I'm sure that's exactly right.
Christine?
Tristan?
I had a question, just something that I'm reading the timeline and maybe I don't know enough about it. I think on the 27th of July, I guess, is that right? It says staff telephones Falmouth Port Council and board members. This is, while this is all going on, and I just was wondering, what does that, who made that? And it just red flagged me to, how is the communication between management and labor there? Which has always at best been tenuous. And, you know, to me, good management tries, it's not always, labor's not always blameless here, but good management tries to communicate, have open communication with labor, and some of this, at least in my mind, points to a disconnect there as well. And maybe I don't know enough about it, and I'm not nautical either, but I also do take the boat quite often, and, my eyes and ears are open. So I'm just wondering, and also just when it says staff, who was that? Do we know, was this just some clerks? Or was staff, what did upper management tell staff to call a Falmouth Port Council?
That's all redacted. Well,
Yeah, so, but it's
said-
all-
Yeah, and I don't know that we want names anyway, by the way.
We don't,
That's all right.
my point, you're right about not names, but my point is, at what level did this come from? And also, is there, that point to me to a disconnect again between management and labor? And maybe not.
Clearly there is a disconnect, because we're sitting here now talking about a situation that
Happened in July.
happened in July and is now coming out in the newspaper with the details that they are able to obtain, which are, hopefully comprehensive, but they're as best
But
as they can
clearly beyond what
be,
the board
and
had.
very redacted. Bob Rosenbaum, you have your hand up. Are you able to ask?
I'm here.
There you go.
First of all, just a point of information, I believe a majority of the board can call a special meeting regardless of whether the chair agrees or not. I express as a member of the public my thanks to the Times for doing the legwork to reveal this. And three, I would totally agree with Jim's position that there is a very serious systemic issue with the Steamship Authority, and in my view, it starts at the top. And I believe management has taken full advantage of the fact that the issues with the organization of the board and the different views that the various board members have, and just gone about doing whatever they would like to do. Jim, I have been in touch with you quite a few times with issues of accurate information going to the public, like what does a standby line look like? Why is it that traffic is backed up all the way to 5 corners and there's only one booth open? And hats off to you, you got it fixed, but it is mind-blowing to me why a board member has to fix these things. Why? Who's watching? Apparently no one. And I don't think my feeling from watching the staff and watching the people at the various docks really don't care. Look at how they're dressed. Very few people come up in uniforms. I see people getting on the boat, getting in dirty jackets. There seems to be no pride there. And this sanctity issue has really brought things to a head. I hope that this can really be a catalyst to fixing things. But being the guy I am not terribly optimistic. I think the other port people will go and sort of say, well, it didn't happen here, so what the heck? I don't, that happened in Falmouth, thank goodness it happened in Falmouth. I'm not gonna worry about it. I hope I'm wrong, but I strongly feel that at the very top, there is no caring, and my word to everybody is that this whole new website, which costs $3 million, which is mind-boggling to me, and it's supposed to go live after Thanksgiving. If you're going to make a reservation for any time after Thanksgiving to maybe January 1st, you better make it before Thanksgiving, because I have serious concerns about how well that's going to work.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I would like us to be able to wrap this up in a way that we feel empowered to support Jim in his efforts to affect positive change in this organization, through not only his efforts, but Joe's efforts and John's efforts as Port Council members and representatives of the island. What can we do to best support them in affecting positive change? Doug, I see your
Well, I
hand
think
up.
Jim's been-
Let's
Jim.
vote Jim first.
No, I
Okay,
was just trying to.
yeah,
To Bob Rosenbaum's points. I'm aware of many of them, but I do think it's unfair and inappropriate from the time and work I've done to paint all of the Steamship Authority employees and staff with a brush that says they don't care, they're sloppy, they don't dress well. I think that's very unfair. I worked with and talked to and listened to many people in that group, many of whom find some of the issues of communication and procedure and the reactive nature of things to be a problem. Many of whom find the issue of, well, that's not my job, so I'm not going to do it. They find that to be a problem. And that's why I said, and I've been involved in large organizations before, it all starts at the top.
Always.
yep,
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair,
yep.
you asked to keep a list of ideas. It occurs to me, and especially in light of the difference in perspective between Nantucket's representative and ours, that it may make sense for us to communicate directly with our corresponding members on, corresponding body on Nantucket, which I believe would be the select board.
The select board is also the county commission.
Yeah, they're also,
Yeah.
they're both
So
ones.
they have appointed their representative, and perhaps, and it's a question, I'm not necessarily saying we should, but perhaps are making a direct communication with them would be
I'd be
useful.
interested in Jim and Joe's thoughts on that.
Okay.
I think that we're in this, I think we've got to be careful, quite frankly, that we don't move into kind of micromanagement. I mean, and it's a really fine line. I'm not saying that does, but I at least would like to take my lead from these two gentlemen in terms of what we can do that would be helpful
Yep.
versus what would either totally and intentionally make their jobs harder.
I just want to respond to the micromanagement. The last thing I want to do is get into the nitty-gritty details of how to fix stuff. However, when something of this magnitude occurs, and again, I said it before, I wasn't kidding. If this was an airline, we would be dealing with dead bodies. So, when something rises to this level of a problem, I used the word egregious before and it wasn't haphazard. I believe the board has little choice but to take a really proactive stance.
Oh,
That
I
doesn't
don't
mean,
disagree, but we're not the board. That's my point. I totally agree. And I would put this, my only point was,
fair point,
our
fair
role,
point.
our role.
Right, so I feel like, we appoint Jim
Right.
to
How do we
represent
support Jim?
us, right?
Yeah.
Joe is a port council member, John,
Selectmen appointed me.
right? How do we support you in doing the best job that you can to represent us on this island, right? So,
Right. That's.
I mean, people are gonna hold you accountable. They do. You're getting your email complaints and Facebook, whatever, acknowledgements. And we appoint you, so, it's like, how can we make this work best for you to help you have a better relationship with what's going on with the Steamship Authority and its connection to our island?
Thank you. I think that we have a good relationship with the Steamship Authority. The issue that we face are the concerns that I raised in Mr. Davis's review that have to do with communication, have to do with organizational structure, have to do with responsiveness, have to do with being reactive and not proactive. Joe's heard me talk about this far too much. I'm appointed by you. I represent this island. I think that this conversation, and I haven't looked at the screen, but I assume the press is here. I assume there are potentially other members of the authority here, potentially other Port Council people. Your concerns communicated directly to the authority as well as its board members and Port Council members, I think will be helpful. Because again, I want to deal with fact, and I want the organization and the board to deal with facts. And I think there are a lot of facts here that speak to general concerns that I have had for the past 4 years.
So it feels like, if I might, what we're saying in this discussion is that we all clearly see that this is a real crisis. And one way of hearing what Jim's saying is it doesn't sound as though there is consensus among the other board members at
In
least.
fairness, the
But
board
we don't know
hasn't met on
that yet.
this.
They haven't met yet.
Okay, so we don't, so then, that's helpful. So the question will be, in a sense, that when you do meet, if there is if there are enough others who feel this is a crisis, then you start moving into crisis management. If there isn't, then is where that's the biggest issue, right? If you can't get a consensus that we have to really get at root cause. And so I guess the reason I'm putting this on the table is just, that to me makes the question more, what role can we play in helping?
I wouldn't prejudge what will happen.
Okay.
Mr. Leopold. We have facts, and I think that my fellow board members who are intelligent, articulate people may not share the same views as I have on various things, but we're dealing with specific facts and a specific incident, and it's my hope that that as the Gazette's initial headline, which you may have seen quickly before taking down, the vessel was referred to as the Sanity, which I've discovered autocorrect changes sanctity to sanity every time I write it as well.
I know there's no such a thing as a sanctity clause.
Right. So, it's my hope that people will see this for what it is and react accordingly.
So did we have a motion? We had a motion on the table to, was it Tristan, your motion?
We voted.
We Did we vote?
we didn't
it?
vote
I don't
yet.
think we
No,
did
we did not.
vote. We did not vote.
Oh,
We didn't vote.
voted
I
it.
don't think so.
No.
So the motion was to, Tristan, can you repeat it,
It was
please?
amended.
I think you did, you're right. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you voted the motion to
Right.
send a letter
We
to
did.
have a special meeting, and then you talked about it, part of it should be sending letter to all the board members and to our counterpart. And then you talked about it after you voted, so I don't know if you want to kind of re-vote it.
So
make sure.
let's rephrase that to
Yeah,
include,
they asked-
include that. Will you
Yeah,
amend your motion?
I had made a second motion that the letter be sent to the other entities.
So you move the motion as
I
amended?
don't know if we voted the second time on
All
that.
right, so I will, if you move the motion as amended, I will second the amended motion and call the question.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We
All right, so
we're
Jim,
all here.
I don't want to feel like we're just writing a letter and that's it. Like, I want to know what's going on. I want to know the response. I want to know what action is being taken or not based on the letter. I really think that, we have a lot at stake here. And our voice is very important and I want us to be heard. And
I do too.
if there's a non-response to it, I want to know about that. Because I think we need to, light a few torches or whatever.
I know who appointed me. I
And
know
there's,
who I work for.
there's big issues coming down the pike, right? I mean, and I think this is among, the big issues that are coming down the pike for the island community and the Steamship Authority. And, and underlying all of this is a crisis of confidence in the public, right? And the public who pay at the fare box and fund this organization every single dime, right?
Yep.
Every day that we go back and forth. We're gonna be talking about obviously the building that's gone on, in Woods Hole, the rebuilding of the shore side, the new boats that are coming on board. We've got electrification issues that we want to make sure we have clear communication and buy-in from, not just from the community, but from our board members, our port councils, and from the Steamship Authority as well. Hi, Kate, I see you there. But we want to make sure that when those issues come along, we're not met with the same level of opacity and stonewalling from the management side, right? There was a big book that came out that said, here's all your problems, here's who you should hire, and here's how you can fix them. Do we have a chief operating officer?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Great. Do we have a port captain?
Yeah.
Great. I didn't see either of their names in that timeline, which is odd.
Yes.
Right? And upsetting when I think about the level of operational dysfunction that cuts them entirely out of being part of the problem solvers between July 27th and today. So I'm going to leave with that. You have my confidence as our representative. I know that this is a heavy lift. It's been a heavy lift since you were appointed. You've got broad enough shoulders to carry this. I trust in your communication back to us as you're appointing, members. I thank you, Joe, for your time as our port council. This could easily have happened, and God forbid this has wiped out the Shenandoah, right? Right. But we hope to keep these lines of communication open, ways that we can be helpful to seeing this through to a positive, conclusion. But there's big.
Jim, I want to thank you for, making us get together in person for the first time in forever. And and hybrid, we have, who's that?
Kate's
Kate,
here.
Kate wants to say something. Kate, I'll get to you.
I have a quick question.
And, okay, I'm trying to manage, like a multi-universe here, but, no, thank you so much for, kind of forcing our hand and us getting together and sit down with you in person, because I think it's really important. This is a huge matter and something that, I see it on Islanders Talk every day, complaints about the steamship every day. It could be, any number of things, but there's never any good news about the steamship every day on Islanders Talk. And You know?
Any kind of good
Well,
news on 9/11?
It's like, okay, like, let's
You
talk
know
about
what-
the
you know
elephant
what?
in the room
My
here.
boat left on time. I got back early. It ran perfectly.
I know, I
Everybody that I dealt with today,
Yeah.
from beginning till end, did their
Yeah.
jobs professionally.
Yeah.
Boats came and went. The loading was courteous, and the people who are on the deck and on the dock, I think, are doing a great job. And I strongly support them, but we've got to get them the leadership. Anyway.
To your point about Islanders talk,
Yeah,
as was said to me by a multi-generational person on this island, you never call the doctor when you feel well.
that's right.
There is an issue. I hear and share your concerns, and I will do everything I can to make this right for our community.
Thank you, Jim.
Don't forget-
Kate?
Yeah.
I think you're muted. There you go.
So, thank you for this discussion. I think it's been very interesting, and I think the sanctity is a specific issue, and maybe it's indicative of the reactive versus proactive culture. But as Peter referred to, we have a much bigger issue, which is climate change. And we have an aging fleet of vessels. And I hope that you guys would have another discussion of this depth about planning now for how the steamship is going to address climate change. And I would refer you to the Hoffer report that just came out from she's our climate chief. It has a good model as to how the state is personally addressing climate change on the idea that they are modeling good behavior. And I think, you know, it has a number of phrases that ask the right questions as to how to plan for the steamship to meet the 2050 climate goals that have been mandated by the state. So I really hope this will be the beginning of a substantive conversation on that topic. Because I think that, and it may, you know, change of leadership may be part of that, but that is the biggest elephant in the room.
Thank you, Kate.
So to that, we have at our next meeting Liz Durkee coming and talking about the climate change goals and the plan. So we'll be talking about that.
That's true, maybe, but she is not going to get into the energy aspect of things, which is the electrification of the vessels or whatever other alternatives. Just not
Something at a time.
That's Kate.
Yeah.
Except Doug, yeah.
Right. I don't know which one of you had your hand up first, but go for it.
Me, I was quicker. I was quicker than,
up a while ago.
I don't, I mean, if you're burning, then
As
you can.
may I?
I just wanted to pile on a little bit on that, thanks to. I think I echo what Kate said, and I am on the Climate Action Task Force and also working with the group that Kate's working with, talking to Eversource. And we've had some really good conversations actually with Eversource and what the future is going to look like. And I know we've talked about this before at our meetings here. And I guess what I'm urging is, I know a lot of times, Jim, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I also hear, well, how is the public going to embrace this? And that's a valid concern. And I think that at some point we should, maybe with you and with others, have a substantive conversation about those issues and about, you know, so that, because I feel, this is just me, that we're not moving fast enough in that direction, and I understand that there's technology and that there's expense involved, and yes, we, the people who use the boat, are going to have to carry that freight, at least the way the system is set up today. But I would hope, and maybe tonight's not the place, but I would hope that we would have a very substantive discussion about that aspect. And I also think, again, going to the top, talking about the top leadership, you know, there have been discussions with them, but it doesn't feel to me that that's really a priority with this, at least it feels in my perception, a priority. They give lip service to it, but a priority of the Steamship Authority. So I hope, as Kate said, that we do have soon more substantive discussions about electrification, about long-term energy goals.
Let's
and
put it
about-
on a future agenda.
And about the and about the
Right.
viability and practicality of how we might do that.
Okay, Don?
Yeah, I just want to stay agnostic on the particular. I think what Jim and Joe and John have described is a whack-a-mole culture at the Steamship Authority. And whether the whack-a-mole, right, is a safety incident, whether the whack-a-mole is traffic, whether the whack-a-mole is electrification, the issue isn't now just getting to identify each mole and then scheduling time to whack that mole. The issue is, how does the Steamship Authority, with Jim's help and Joe's and whatever we can do, become an organization which has process, which has a plan, and that plan is both how do we react to crises like this, as well as how do we have a plan for electrification. I think we've got to watch out just putting up more and more moles. What the Steamship Authority sounds like it really needs is leadership that understands planning and process, and then processes in place.
Yep. Doug, did you have
I'm gonna
something?
let it go.
You're good. All right.
Jim, I think that.
All
Just to
right.
Tristan's point and to Kate's point, and I've communicated this to Kate in emails back and forth, and I communicated this to the board at our last meeting. We need a project plan to meet the state's electrification goals. I have asked for it.
Good.
We do not have it yet.
Thank you.
Who's producing that?
Pardon me?
Who's going to produce that? Management
The
team?
Steamship Authority, senior management.
Okay. Are they hiring a consultant to do that? Or are they doing that in-house?
Mark Higgins, who is the new COO, has been working on that. That's what I know.
Okay. Thank you.
And by the way, I have tremendous respect for Mr. Higgins, and I think he is doing a good job of getting into the weeds in terms of what the Steamship Authority needs to do to be compliant and effective. So I find him to be a very welcome addition.
Good.
So, can I
Okay.
respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead
So,
quickly, and then we're moving
Since you
on.
brought Mr. Higgins up, and somebody said that he was not mentioned in the timeline, aside from the timeline, was he made aware of this, of the incident? In a timely fashion?
I do not know the answer to the question.
Okay,
But he is the one that did a lot of the investigation in the beginning.
okay.
I also believe, if I'm not incorrect, that when you asked him questions, he was told to stop responding.
Basically, when I read from the minutes of the meeting.
Stop responding?
But it was basically, that's
By Davis.
by Davis, by Mr. Davis. Not outwardly, but as I read to you, Mr. Davis's last remarks were,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna name names.
Mr. Davis noted that until the investigation
It's
was
in the
completed
minutes.
and all statements received, it would be premature to make any determination as to what the cause was. In the way it was said, that was, and I didn't pursue the matter any further. I would also like to say, I appreciate the county commissioners holding this meeting today. Some of you may not know that I was the clerk to the county commissioners for over 40 years. And the only time they really were interested in the Steamship Authority was a week before the appointment, when everybody was getting on the tail. And then they, and then they'd hold a big meeting in the courthouse to make the appointment of it. But it's nice to see the support that you're giving Jim, because he works very, very hard. And it's been interesting, my 2.5 years on here alone, with John, that we meet usually twice a month to discuss different matters, so we go in from the vineyard with a unified mind.
Yeah. It's important.
It is important.
And it's important that we support you in your efforts.
It's important that we do the best we can and make this lifeline of ours an effective operation.
Here, here.
And people work very hard. Mr. Davis has a lot of institutional knowledge, and as Jim said, he works many, many, many hours. His biggest problem is not delegating authority, and communication. And that's why we have a COO. You have to give him more responsibility as time goes on.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
We're all here to
Thank you.
help make it better, so
Thank you.
kudos to you for all the good work you're doing. Thank you so much for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
I
Okay,
have a quick question for us, which
Okay.
is, who's gonna write this letter and when?
Well, it's gonna be me and Martina and you.
Serves me right for asking.
I was gonna say, I can't believe you stepped into that.
I don't have to do what I'm asked. I
Oh, yeah.
mean, based on my salary alone.
All right, go get a vote, we'll double it.
communications.
Jim, thank you, Jim.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
that's.
You got
Thank
this
you.
one.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Okay.
Thanks,
Joe,
Joe.
good to see you. Good to see you. Always good to see you.
If you find out what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay, next on our agenda, the ARPA.
I have
Martina,
not
you have
been to the
updates?
family. I
So
was
wait,
trying to
Commissioner for
give
State.
them the space.
So-
No, he's not gonna make it.
No,
We kind of pushed it
no,
off because of
absolutely.
Fine.
Understanding how in-depth this was gonna be, we took him off the agenda. Yeah, sorry, last little thing.
No, I just didn't know, I just what you did there.
Okay, so ARPA, I send you the two agreements that are specifically to allow the applicants who are eligible for direct pay by vendors, so they don't have to come up with their own funds. So those agreements are, so there is a, they can be direct pay by us. So far, we only have agreements that are reimbursement. So I need you to vote that we can use these agreement documents.
It's a generic agreement,
Yes,
it's not
yes,
with somebody
yes,
yet.
yes,
Okay.
yes, that would be used for anybody who is eligible
I have-
and is requesting that we pay directly.
I have,
So it's my fault because I didn't read those. Can you just, again, go over exactly what's
The
in?
only thing that it says in the sections that says that we will be reimbursing the homeowner, it says that we will be paying their vendor directly.
Which is what we've been wanting to do
Yes,
all along.
yes,
and
it's
running
just
off.
finally I got the
So,
legal
that's
language,
great.
it took a little bit of time to make that.
This is a big, I mean, we've talked about it a lot.
Do we
So-
need to vote this change?
Yes.
It's not a
need to vote it.
change, it's additional two
But
sets of
I
documents.
understand. Do we
Yes.
need to
Yes,
vote?
we
We
do,
need to do
yes,
it.
Okay, I got a question.
yes,
Does, since we're making direct payments,
uh-huh,
does that, in any way,
no.
you know where I'm going with
I know where
this.
it's going, and that's why it took
No.
some time.
No, I wanna know that this does not, put us in any way in conflict with, was it NGL 30?
Yeah, no, the
Or
procurement, I
procurement,
know
or
what
procurement
you're
law, right?
asking, and
Because, and do we have to be party to every agreement?
we know
and
about
every-
it to.
No, let me
yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
Every contract that we're paying for. I mean, if the answer, we've been through lawyers and the answer is no,
Yes, the answer is no.
oh, okay.
Okay, I'm seeing a high nodding level of agreement that it's
If
okay.
I might, we really owe a huge debt of thanks to Peter and to Martina for this, because Peter has really been, thank God, the one to really make sure that this is all i's dotted and t's crossed, so.
Then I'm okay with that. My second question was, did we ever get an answer back about the,
Finish your question so I can give you the answer.
yeah, we are being recorded.
we had an issue where an applicant was requesting funding for a home that was held by a trust,
Right.
of which there are a multitude of different legal structures for all different kinds of reasons.
Yes.
Trust does not equal this is a rich person who should not be funded.
Yes.
A trust can be left to somebody out of an estate. It can be a way to transfer.
So we never got an answer on that?
No, we did
So-
get an answer. We got an
Yeah.
answer that we should stay away from it because there is very different,
Income verification becomes a huge
Yes.
issue, right?
Yes.
Because you could have beneficiaries and trustees and all the rest of that, and we don't know.
And once you say that the trusts are eligible, and then you're putting additional stipulations, which trusts are and which trusts are not, or which individuals are, which individuals are not, then you're getting into issues of, I don't wanna say discrimination, but basically the advice from the legal counsel was keep it to the homeowners. If you run out of people interested to do this under this structure the way we have right now, then we can go back to the steering committee
Right.
and we can ask them in what ways they want to
Okay.
loosen it up.
Okay, all right.
Do they wanna, be a little further from the pond, or
Okay.
I also had a question of renters, you know, like they, like housing authority has, you know, affordable rental units.
No.
Could that be,
No.
exactly, so there's various other entities and things that potentially could benefit, and we should give the steering committee, I think, the benefit of making decisions how we gonna
Homeowners,
widen up the circle.
period.
Okay, so we're gonna exhaust
Yeah,
first initially the cleanest, most,
Yes,
right, and
yeah, straightforward applications,
So
and
the
then take
question-
it from there.
The question was about moving the documentation to include prepayment, right, direct payment.
no,
Right.
no prepayment at all. There's gonna be
Direct,
no
I'm sorry,
Just
direct
direct
payment.
direct pay.
to
There's
the
gonna be
vendor.
no pay until the materials at least on site.
Okay.
So we not paying to anybody who did not perform yet.
Okay,
And direct pay. And it's also what we have seen is sometimes the bill is bigger than what the town has, you know, agreed to provide. So we only doing it to the maximum that the town is allowing them to receive from this.
Because the county has
Yes.
never, ever paid a deposit.
No, yeah,
But this is not,
unless it's contracted. And because we don't have any contractual agreement with these vendors, we would never pay a deposit.
I had a question.
We have zero contractual agreement with these people. Let's put it that way.
okay. All right, do we have a
I had a
motion
question.
on the table? I would entertain a motion in a second, and then we can discuss it further.
Make a motion to amend that agreement to include just what Martinez.
To adopt these two new agreements
Yes.
to allow for a direct pay.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, the second, okay. Doug and then Tristan.
I have not had the opportunity to read them, and I will not vote on something that I haven't read. So
Okay.
I would ask that we defer this
To our
to the
next
next
meeting.
meeting.
yeah.
Okay.
Unless
Tristan?
there's a real time of the essence issue.
No, there isn't. Tristan?
Yeah, just a comment and a question. Comment being, if we get to the point where we're looking for more applications, then perhaps, you know, I was thinking if there was a trust where some single individual who had been living in that property for a long time, and, you know, I like to call, we have a lot of people on the island that are land rich but are poor, because they're either retired or on fixed incomes or whatever, that maybe down the road, that might be, you know, some kind of appeal process before that board.
Right, and
Just
I think we already got there, like that would be something
Okay,
we would
and my-
consider.
My
And-
second question, or I guess point, was I assume then if we're paying directly, we're going to pay, you know, after, there'll be a process with Judy and invoices submitted? I mean, how is that going to?
As always.
As always, so I hope we're working with Judy on, as we set this up, and you know, what's going to be
Yeah.
acceptable as proof of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course we will. That's kind of standard protocol.
Well,
right?
it is, but we have,
No,
we
of
we have a
course, I
lot
mean,
on
no-
our plate, we have a lot on our plate, and I'm on the FinCom, and I'm just,
But nothing gets paid unless Judy is satisfied.
correct, I understand
Yeah,
that. So I'm just, but I just,
I love that answer.
Thank you, Judy. Doug, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so we have a timeline within which all this money needs to be expended, is that correct?
yes.
Or reverts back to the county for other use?
Yep.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
And so my first question is, could that other use be an extension of this program?
Not really,
No.
because unfortunately,
Okay,
it takes.
that's all I
yeah,
need,
no.
that's all I need. Therefore, if we're going to take the position that let's try and use this money up without dealing with trusts and other entities, we need to give ourselves a deadline by which time we can consider that.
Yeah.
Because the first priority in my mind is who's closest to the pond,
Right.
right? But, so what would that deadline be? We don't have to decide tonight if we need to gather some information, but we really need to say, as of this period, if we haven't, you know, if there aren't X number of units, projects underway, we've got to expand, because I'd hate to,
Yeah, we.
Right, so we have an ARPA committee, which I know hasn't really been active
When did
because we, whatever, done a lot of work, and then now maybe it's time for that committee to revisit and just address that point. that
Isn't there a
Doug is
time when
bringing
you have-
up. And just bring that to us
Is
at our
there-
next meeting or 2 meetings from now.
Isn't there a deadline at some point where we have to spend all the money?
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah,
just said.
yeah, so
We just
that's what
said
that's what we're
So
talking
there's
about.
That's what I-
two-
that's what I was
there's two
referring to.
deadlines.
Okay.
There is a deadline by which the money has to be dedicated to, allocated to a specific thing. And
Alright.
then there is a second deadline by which it has to be actually
So
spent, like
it's
out
not
of
a
the
bad
capital.
idea for us to review where
Right,
that is.
yeah.
this year.
Exactly,
Right,
so if
just-
the
I don't think
committee
we need to
can
do
get
more than-
together and
Wait,
do
yeah.
that, that'd be
Just-
great.
Just post those 2 dates again. I mean, it's not a
Can I
meeting.
just add to that, I don't know, maybe John, you would know, the other things that we appropriated money to, have they been accounted for as well? They weren't big amounts, but
Well, the only other thing we ended up appropriating money to was the airport.
it was the
Right.
airport.
Right,
So
that's it.
they also are under.
That's it.
Yeah, so as I
Thank
put
you
in
for
my
showing up,
manager's
though.
report, the airport already drew down the full 1.5 million.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Right.
So that's
Cash
already.
on your
I did not get
pocket.
this, I can't vote on these documents, I haven't seen them. I'm sorry, when did you send them?
What
The manager's
documents? The
report,
men-
The ARPA document, the amended
I
ARPA
sent
document.
it
I'm
on
sorry.
Friday.
Yeah, I know, I saw that.
Monday. Friday or Monday.
Okay, can we move on to,
I didn't read them, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, it
well,
just
Can we
sounds
table
like
them?
neither
Yeah.
you nor Doug did,
Yeah,
so we
yeah,
don't have a.
yeah.
Yeah, we deferred it already.
Okay.
So that's gonna get deferred, so I'll put it
So
on the next
can I ask a
meeting's
quick process
agenda.
question? Which is, so that we don't end up in this position again, where we get documents that we haven't read, some of us, we didn't get them. Do we need to revisit with Martina how much ahead of time we need the documents? Because it strikes me that we shouldn't be in the position where we've gotten documents and we haven't had a chance to read them. If we're not getting them in time, then we should change the time frame. And so that's my question is, do we need more time?
So, in my case, if they actually went Friday, I somehow missed the email.
Must be Monday.
If it was Monday, I would say that's not enough time.
Okay, so do we want to say,
so 48 hours is not enough time?
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no question, it's not a question of being lazy, I know how hard Doug's working.
Yeah.
But if it's not enough time, then there's not enough time, and we should make sure
Well,
it is.
I would ask that if we're meeting on Wednesdays, that anything we need to read that
By
needs to be
Friday.
acted on has to be out by Friday, so at least have
Is
a
that okay?
weekend.
If I have it available,
Yeah,
But, and if,
yeah.
but my,
Then if
my
not-
point is, if it's not available, then,
So we should hold ourselves accountable. That if we receive something by Friday,
We should have.
we are accountable for having read it.
Right.
Okay.
If we don't receive it by Friday, and we can read it, great, but if we can't, we can't. That's all
And
I'm
I think
saying. That seems totally fair.
any emergency kind of thing that, Martina needs to impart, she can flag that in the email.
Yeah, so part of why I usually send it to you on Monday is because that's when the agenda is finalized, so I'm only sending you things that will be actually discussed. So I might be sending you Friday things that I think are on the agenda, but that might change between Friday and Monday. So
Okay.
as long as you're okay with that,
yeah.
and
Okay.
as always.
I'd rather
I'll
go
send-
that way,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah,
That's
no
fine.
problem.
If you could resend those, so I'm looking
Yeah.
at Monday and I've got the
Yeah.
minutes, the agenda, something else, but I don't see the ARPA stuff.
They were
Yeah, I
with the
don't
agenda
remember
and with the
either.
minutes.
I didn't.
I know, and I
Okay.
sent stuff out today,
I
so,
got
yeah.
3 documents.
I did
Okay,
see
that's-
that.
Agenda, draft
I read your
minutes.
stuff,
Okay,
Christine.
let's move on.
Yeah.
Finance committee update. Anybody have anything?
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
I'm still spinning around the, we continue to meet bi-weekly with Judy. The transition to Harper's, I think on the front end, appears to have gone well. On the back end, there's some issues with reconciliation to the GL that Judy's had to work on with Harper's, and that continues to be a process that Judy's patience and diligence is kind of leading her through. She's had great success, I think, working with Kim. I'm
Kim
sorry.
Angel.
Kim Angel.
Why are you sorry?
Because the name just went on my head.
I can barely remember your name.
But I think Kim's been crucial to helping Judy work through the backlog of trying to reconciliation and any adjustments that have been going on. So that work I know it's a bit grueling and detail oriented, but we have a treasurer who can do that and is managing that process. As we come up to audit, I think, we, on a wish list, would have loved to be able to say that we were at an October closeout and they'd be here by November, but that's really not where we are. Part of that is catching up on this backlog, and then part of that is the fact that the auditor's calendar gets booked too. So they hope to be doing their site work in January. Judy, you can correct me on that date, but I believe it was January.
January 23rd.
There you go, January 24th, 23rd. So, that's good, and I know Judy's been preparing, a lot of documentation to be uploaded into that audit portal, so that hopefully will proceed smoothly and accurately when it's time to do that, but that's my audit finance.
Thank you, Peter. All right, Land Use Committee, Tristan.
Yeah. So we canceled the meeting this week for a couple of reasons. One, unavailability of one of our members, and also we're waiting for information, which I will tell the board. We have contacted an appraiser who is going to give us an appraisal on the property, New York Avenue, to help us determine the lease issue, which when we get a recommendation, we will bring before the full board. And we're hoping to have that before the end of the month, so we pushed the meeting toward later on this month. Also, Mark is working, Mark has been away, but Mark is working with Martina to develop an RFP, I guess, or whatever you call it, for a consultant to take, help us on our look at our long-term needs. And so that also hopefully we'll have. So we put this meeting off, and we will have hopefully some substance to deal with at our next meeting. Also, I don't remember if it was brought before here or not, probably was by Martina, but we are at least got acknowledgement that we are on the state's radar stream for a look at the courthouse infrastructure.
In the spring.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I have a couple of questions. One is, what can we do to help advance the efforts in, just assessing our assets in terms of properties that we own and what we plan to do with them?
That's the RFP.
That's the RFP that we're
Okay,
working
so
on.
I've been, I'd like to think that we could get that moving sooner rather
Well,
than
we-
later. So, but, okay, just putting that out there. The other thing is, we have a more short-term issue, which is the rezoning potential of New York Avenue and going to commercial. I think, Doug, you wrote a letter
Yeah,
that,
but you said you were gonna do something with it. I was gonna ask that question.
oh, okay, so we're talking about it. Okay, so.
Fair enough.
So it's like, okay, so you wrote that letter, and I'm like, that's good, Martina, you chimed in, I think you said that looks fine to me. So where do we go with that now? Do we go to just submitting that on our own to
Well,
the
I don't have confirmation from
planning
Adam,
board,
unless you
or,
heard something,
because
we had him as a co-signer.
all right,
We
so,
agreed we wanted more than just ourselves to support
right, so,
them.
okay, so now let's advance this initiative to the next step, which is Doug wrote a letter, and, okay, we're good with that, and, all right, so is that coming from Martina? Are you gonna send that to the Martha's Vineyard Commission and Harbor Homes and the hospital to get them on board to sign a letter in support of this? Do we want to reach out to residents on New York Avenue as well? Where do we, where do we go from here? All right, Doug.
We agreed that we would send a letter with at least one co-signer.
Correct.
And I think it's more important to get it done before the end of this month.
Yes, indeed.
Preferably even before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
And therefore, if we can get Adam to agree, and I mentioned it to him, he said he needed to see it, he's been copied, he hasn't responded, so I'll call him. That's probably good enough. As far as the other entities on the road, why don't we just, once Adam agrees, share it with them and say, would you send a letter like this? but then we just send ours out.
Can Adam send it, or does he need to talk to his commission before
I
he
don't
sends
know.
something like this?
I would think he would need to talk to the full
Yeah.
commission.
Yeah, I would think so too. So my feeling is we should send our letter and we should put it out to the commission, the hospital, Harbor Homes. We're sending this letter in support of this. And if they want to send their own letter, I mean,
It's the reverse of what we did last
I-
week. It's,
You know
that's
what?
you're contravening what we voted on, last week, which was we agreed as a body, now the body we can rescind and vote differently.
Yeah.
We agreed as a body to send a letter as long as we had another, that we weren't out there hanging by ourselves. So the idea was we would approach the commission and hopefully the commission would support this and we would send it jointly with the commission or others, but that's what we agreed on.
He's right.
So
I know you're right on that, and if it's if it's gonna take us another 2 weeks or a month to get all that together, then I say just send our
So-
own letter.
I don't,
So
I
Doug,
don't.
I would ask that we give me 24 hours to get Adam to agree.
okay,
And if he doesn't, I suspect strongly that Harbor Homes would sign on with us.
they already have told me that they would, yeah.
Okay, so
Great.
so that answers the question
Okay.
and that resolves
But
it.
now it's
So
like, okay, so Martina, can you reach out to Adam and Harbor Homes?
let me
or
call
Doug?
Adam.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I'll call
That'd
Adam
be better for Doug.
from the car as
Okay.
I'm leaving.
Okay, and then Harbor Homes, maybe Martina. I mean, I already spoke with,
Who?
oh,
The new president?
no,
Or
no,
I'm sorry,
Jennifer
new
Frank?
CEO
The
or the
new-
president?
no, what's her name? Come on, why am I drawing a blank?
Lisa?
Lisa Belcastro, yes, thank you.
But again, Harbor Homes is a board, you
Yeah.
know, so we need somebody.
Yeah, and she, and I,
Yeah, but
Pose the question to
Jennifer
her.
Frank would probably sign it.
Okay,
Okay.
that she's the president, she could.
okay,
So we're meeting tomorrow, so if you're gonna talk to Adam tonight, that'd be good.
Oh, good.
Martha Meeting Commission.
Perfect.
Oh.
So if he's gonna,
I know I don't have that
no,
on
if
my
he,
calendar.
if it's not on, it doesn't look like it's on the agenda, but the manager can make a report request, so.
Okay,
Okay.
I will ask him to ask you if he
Okay.
needs your.
Yeah.
okay, so we're good on action items with this now, right?
Yes, Madam Chair,
Okay,
we
we're
are.
gonna move forward with that. All right, legislative committee, so
That'd be you.
that would be me. I wrote a letter to the, a proposed letter to go to all the select boards on the island in support of our legislative request to change treasurer's position to appointed versus elected, and that they not have to live here. So, I sent it around to everyone. You guys can chime in. I've already had edits, and I think it's a pretty good letter, and I'm hoping we get that on the agenda for upcoming select board meetings. And if I need you all to go before your respective bodies of government
Would you
to
like
support it,
I know we did. Would you like a motion to approve your letter?
hell no.
No, I haven't even had a chance
Yeah,
to read
right,
it
I was
yet.
gonna
I
say
haven't
that.
read it yet. This is another one that just came out. I haven't read it yet. You can't move.
No, I
it.
think it's pretty
I
good.
think we already
I
authorized.
think it's very good.
Haven't
I
read it.
trust my committee
You did very, everybody did a good job.
to do it, no. So, I mean, that's good, and then, beyond that, legislative stuff, I haven't dealt with the percentage increase of money that we get to keep, so, but yeah, but anyway, I'm working on the treasurer stuff, so that's my update. Don, communications.
Wait,
Doug,
that's me,
Oh.
that's Doug.
but
What do I have
while we're
done?
talking,
Because it was
because it was
under
here.
Doug's
Oh, right, I'm
update.
sorry.
That's okay. You know, we
It's
both,
hard to keep up to.
we have both, we both have bald spots, so I get it.
That's a spot.
I was hoping you would.
Oh my God, really? Yeah, you should challenge that.
Yeah, go ahead. It's getting late.
I would like to come back to the steamship communications for a second.
Okay,
I believe we've agreed to a letter to the board chair, copy to all of the board members of the steamship. But did we also agree, and to all port council members, do we want to either copy or have a separate communication? I brought it up as a question, I don't think we ever answered it, to our counterparts on Nantucket who appoint, and for that matter, the counterparts in Barnstable that appoint.
I strongly think we should.
Okay.
Tristan, you have your...
It's a mixed thing, but it's not going to the mat on this, but I don't think we should. But if the situation, I think at this point, we're getting our word out there. I think you should CC the newspapers, our newspapers, and maybe even the Nantucket Mirror or whatever it is over there. I think that, I'm just looking at reverse, if Nantucket County government, which is the selectmen, they're one and the same, were writing us about how Jim should vote. I'm just saying, how would we feel about it? So if you guys want to do it, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, but I do think sending it to Mr. Rainey and maybe CCing the administrator of Nantucket, I think would be okay. I just don't want to get us where we're immediately possibly adversarial with Nantucket.
I wasn't suggesting
Yeah.
any particular position.
It seems to me if the letter is that we would like to articulate our point of view around the seriousness of this situation and offer to play whatever kind of role would be helpful, I think broadcasting it broadly and copy, not sending it to, but copying is totally appropriate. I'd agree with Tristan, if it's anything which looks like we're trying to be directive to anybody, then I think we shouldn't. But I don't think that's what we're doing. I think it's more the form.
Yeah, although I would think we should have something in there that alludes to, we hope you'll take this as seriously as we
I would
do.
even be further. I would say we would encourage the board to take this very seriously.
Right. Yeah. No,
and
I don't.
we offer what support we
We
can.
can't tell others how to vote. I mean, we can
So
tell them,
I would
but
suggest
that usually invites opposition.
Exactly, and that's what I was actually the same
So
sentiment.
do we also, following up from that, and I agree with what Don just said, as long as we're not being too directive of how Mr. Rainey should vote, should we also be sending that then to Hyannis and to?
Yeah, that's
I think we might as
that's
well
what
copy it broadly.
So now,
Well-
and in Hyannis, they are appointed by the Barnstable. Their appointment is by Barnstable Council. So we should then follow suit and do the same in Falmouth with the selectmen
New
and
Bedford.
Barnstable, and might as well do the whole 9 yards.
But my question isn't who should be copied, because that one's easy. I think you copy everybody.
Yeah.
But my question is specifically, do we send a slightly different letter to our counterparts in the other communities that says we hope you'll take this as seriously as we do?
I would personally, for what it's worth, and I'll defer to you as the writer, but I would say I think we should write to the board and our counterpart, those five, and say we are very concerned. We strongly encourage you to take this as seriously. We believe this needs to go to the top of the priority list. We are concerned that these are major process issues way beyond the particular incident. Without, again, this me being me, I wouldn't then try to say, we think you should do A, B, and C.
No.
But I think if we did that, that goes to,
So you're saying the same message to the board as to the appointing authorities?
correct.
Yeah.
That's my,
Yes.
But taking it beyond, which you have advised me to do, beyond the level of I hope or we hope,
Well,
and that is, this is a very
yeah,
serious
I think word like
matter.
encourage or urge,
That if
Right.
it happened in your port,
yeah, I don't think you want.
well,
No.
Why don't we
honestly,
ask Doug
you
to
know, like-
write the letter and
Write the letter.
share, or whoever's gonna write it and share it back with us, so
Well,
we
but
can
you
help
have to
with.
be careful on something like that. Also, I mean, so
in terms
I
of
trust.
open meeting?
Yeah, because of the open
That's a good
meeting
point.
law. So
You're right.
so.
I defer, you're right.
I think Doug's got the gist of it. I think as long as we're not telling, we're not ordering some other
Right.
representative that we want
That's
you
a
to
good
do
point.
this,
Yeah,
I think
yeah, I
it's
agree.
fine.
So
I think it
why
shows
doesn't
the
somebody
seriousness.
make a
like
motion
you
to
say.
authorize the communications committee to,
Do we need a motion for that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
second.
Didn't we
I'll
already-
make the motion.
Okay.
because you as a board,
You're right.
You're writing on behalf of the, so
Right.
that,
Okay.
that's, didn't we do that already?
No.
No, we voted to send the letter, but not to, we didn't talk,
What you're now doing is authorizing the
Authorizing-
communication committee to do it.
If we don't do
Okay.
something like this, then we have to bring it back to the full committee.
Okay.
are you?
Okay,
are
so
you the
Tristan
chief-
made the motion.
Second the
Peter
motion.
seconded it.
One question, is there somebody else beside you on the communications committee?
Yeah, we're
Oh, good, all right, okay.
three of us.
All right,
And
all in
Julie.
favor?
And Julie, okay.
And Julie
great. Aye.
and
Aye.
It's a committee, it's not.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Not that I
Done.
don't trust you, but.
Did you,
But I don't
Tristan,
trust
what's
you.
your vote? All right,
Tristan votes wholeheartedly that
Correct.
done.
Okay.
All right, we got it.
Now, communication committee update. You're still on the hook for that.
Yes. So we met again, we're meeting every week, so.
And I do have to announce, even if you weren't, we meet at my house. I'm responsible for coffee. He's responsible for being chair. Most importantly, Julie brings freshly baked scones.
Oh my God!
So I just want
I want to be on that committee.
I just got a dirty look.
A lousy committee. Nobody brings
I
nothing.
never had them. They were so good. Sorry, just had to get that on the table.
Coffee's not bad.
This is what you guys get if you,
Oh,
you know,
man.
if you resist joining a committee. You know, you might miss out.
You are on one with Julie too, right?
What's that?
You are on that, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Okay.
I can't
So-
jump in.
so-
I couldn't help myself.
we have made some firm decisions about updates to the website that are going to be within the realm of Martina and Suzanne's capability. I am meeting, you don't know this, I am meeting with them next month,
We're
Tuesday
meeting
after Thanksgiving,
Okay.
to actually execute it as best as
Great.
possible.
Great.
I am in communication with somebody who is a former web designer, who I was hoping to hear from today or tomorrow, but she was intimately involved with this accident that happened, and so I'm expecting it's gonna defer. And what else did we do? We did something else.
So we basically, we've also been
Scones.
working on the org chart for the FinCom.
Oh, thank you, yes.
Oh yeah, that, which looks great, by the way.
We're,
Yeah,
we're
it's getting
putting
there.
together an
It's getting
organization chart that's simplified. What Martina did a while back is complete, but for the average bear is gonna be unwieldy, so it's gonna
But it would be
become,
very helpful, quite frankly, just to us, much less
And I'm
the world out there.
and I'm
Yeah.
determined, when's the FinCom meeting?
21st,
That's next week.
yeah.
So I'm determined to have that piece
Yep.
ready.
I think we pretty much got it as of,
Yeah, I cannot be at that FinCom meeting because of an obligation in West Tisbury. Is there any chance you could go
what day is it?
next Tuesday? Oh, no, you can't.
I probably could. It's the one Tuesday that I may not be going
5:30.
up.
5:30,
Okay,
no.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
I might be able to.
Because the opening piece is,
Right.
you know, different. And this is a pre-meeting. This is not the
Yes.
presentation.
Yes.
It's all about
Yep.
how to make the presentation better. And we got solicited
Good.
by the town of Oak Bluffs.
Yes.
Can you come to the meeting and help us?
So this is OB, not West. Okay.
Obi.
Right.
Got it.
Tough crowd.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but that's great.
Wanna
I
go,
mean, that's a
Peter?
place to start.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember this from, yeah.
So,
I
I think that's it for the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
We're working through, I mean, we have basically three priorities. The website is one, and what I keep calling the elevator speech, which would be the 2 or 3 sentences that we all need to memorize. So when somebody says, what is a county?
What does the county do?
We have an answer. What was the third?
FinCom.
I'm sorry?
FinCom.
Oh, the
FinCom
FinCom piece, okay, which
presentations,
we're already doing.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I have a long list of other things we gotta talk about, but, you know, we can only do so
But
much.
So I have a question. So, you know, part of my legislative stuff, I'm working on doing my own letter. Like, I'm just gonna put it together, whatever it is. Do I need to, do you want me to run that through you
That's
guys?
a good question. I
Okay.
think ultimately the answer is yes, that we
Okay.
really want a template. We have somebody who has agreed to help us, who has media experience,
Who
but
hasn't
Right.
shown
who's
up
not
yet?
so far been
Right.
terribly responsive.
Okay.
If we can get his help,
Yeah,
And
because it would be, I mean, if we just think of us as a brand, we'd like everything to be on brand that we both say and send out.
Right.
I would say at this point, it's probably worth just having us look at. I would
Okay.
refer to you, but
So
wouldn't want to slow things down.
I guess my question is then, gets into open meeting law. Like if I'm sharing it with you all
We can't deliver,
and.
we cannot deliver
Can't-
it on email, like, we can,
No, I know that, so I'm just wondering like how, I
Well,
mean, I share with you and.
we can draft a letter together and we can't send it. The letter has to go before the full commission
Okay,
to get sent.
Unless we authorize ahead of time,
Right, but if we authorize ahead of time,
correct.
Then the message has to be, you
agreed.
still, you have to authorize a specific message. You
That's what I
can't
Correct,
just say, write a letter.
correct.
Right. But you could do it with two of the three of us in the communication committee. Right, because that would be three.
gosh, this
still
is so complicated, so
Okay.
I
You know
start,
what, for the time being, write your damn letter. and-
Well,
Okay.
it's written and you have all received it today, but I
Right.
guess you didn't have
all
time
right,
to
so
read it.
I put it before my legislative committee, which is me, Tristan,
Okay.
and Mark
I think that that's
Crisafulli,
what you should
and Doug chimed in, and Martina chimed in,
And you
but,
sent it around and.
and then I sent it, and then
But I
everybody
do
saw it.
think that part of our agenda, and as part of the elevator speech, is literally part of what we should be doing is coming up with essentially kind of a format around letters and press releases so that they look the same and
Well, that's not the elevator speech, that's.
it's
that's
a
branding.
right. It's related, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Right, and this is
But at this point,
different,
that's not what.
yeah, this is very specific to a
Agreed.
totally separate,
Agreed.
okay,
The elevator speech is what we're gonna put on the homepage of
Right.
of the website, which is
and we're all gonna
basically
memorize it.
the 2 or 3 bullets. And-
Just real quick, and this is just something with communication, and I attended, as Christine did, the healthy aging.
Yep.
And, all these organizations got up and talked about what they're doing and blah, 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 and at least the time I was there, we were not really,
Right.
we facilitate a lot of what people
Right,
were
and we
talking
weren't
about.
mentioned.
And we weren't really.
We weren't even mentioned in the
Right.
announcement that
So it's
listed
just
all
something-
the other
And
organizations.
that's not, I
Grist
mean,
for the
it's
mill.
just,
Yeah.
and just something to,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was there at the latter part, the 3:30.
That was in the earlier part.
Right, and at which Adam and
Martina should have been,
Cindy.
Cindy, Adam and Cindy did a presentation which basically said, here's where we are, here's where we're going, which means more older people, and here's what we need that we don't have, which is a cohesive plan. Adam, for political reasons, didn't say we need an island-wide entity to do this.
Yep.
But it's sort of, if you read between the lines, I
Yep.
think that's where he's going.
Oh my God, when I tapped into that at the very end and all I got from it was, we need one council on aging, island-wide, for everyone to go to one central location. I didn't
That's
get,
not gonna work.
I didn't get from him, like, where was it gonna land and how was that gonna be
Yeah,
structured,
but-
I didn't get that
But I
at
think
all.
that's a mistake. I think we may need one council on aging, but you still need 2 or 3 officers.
yeah, of course you do, but
I'm sorry, is this in the agenda or?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
getting-
exactly.
Point
I just
taken.
wanna,
We're
I
outta
wanna put
here.
it in perspective for people who are watching. So we're talking about a summit that was put together
Right.
by Healthy
Healthy
Aging,
Aging.
right?
Right.
So it was their agenda people that
Got it.
they invited to speak,
Got
that
it.
they felt
Got
are
it.
the players.
And I'm only editorializing that you should have been part of that discussion, that we facilitate many of the things that we're talking about.
Understand.
Just
Got
that,
it.
great
So
event.
we have invited Adam Turner and Cindy Trish. They are on our agenda for our next meeting, so we
Right.
can
Good.
discuss that.
Okay, I'm done with communication.
Okay.
All right,
And
all
we
right,
done-
good.
Are we done yet?
All right, now we're on improvements
And
committee.
Martina and I are meeting on Monday.
Okay, great, all right, managers report, we have 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, I sent it to you, but the 2 things that I wanna talk to you about, something I sent in an email today, which is we have 2 appointments coming up that have to have done before the end of the year. Martha's Vineyard Commission, which Peter is our rep right now, so, you know, if you want, we can just put it on the agenda to reappoint him. And then we have,
So moved.
next agenda. And then we have a retirement board appointment, which right now is James Haggerty, the town administrator in Edgartown. He is interested to continue. The board would like him to continue, so the question is, do you want to advertise or do I just put it on the agenda?
I don't know what the legal process is, but if James wants to continue and people want him to continue, I can't imagine why we would not want to have that happen.
Right, unless we legally have to advertise it.
If we
then
legally
I
do-
would,
It's not that we legally have to, but that's usually what we do with appointments that are coming up. So it's about procedure.
Can I,
right, so Tristan and then,
yeah, we went through with the previous iteration of this board, with Mr. Chattonover, I believe. We went
You're right.
exhaustively over
You're right.
whatever we
The whole
call it,
process.
our,
Yeah.
our policy stuff.
Yeah.
so advertise
And
it.
so we had a policy for advertising. I think there was something in there, and I may be wrong, where we talked about if we did that, to put, we have a strong in-house
Sure.
candidate.
Right.
So
Okay.
maybe if we just went through that, you know,
Advertise
probably
it
need
with
to
that.
change.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
probably
that's,
right.
I just want
administrative code.
all of us to be on the
No,
same
that's-
board.
that's
So
good
I'll put an
point.
ad
Okay.
in the paper for that.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Doug?
So, as I voiced when we went through the airport commission process at the beginning of the year, if we have somebody in mind already, either an incumbent or a recommendation from the body that we're appointing to, that we know is qualified, capable, does a good job, whatever, I don't see a reason to go through a whole advertising and all that stuff
Yeah.
unless it's legally required. However, it's a big however, I'm a believer in term limits, either self-imposed or legally imposed. There's such a thing as somebody being at it for too long, I don't care how good they are.
Well,
So,
then we should amend our, I mean, I'm not disagreeing
Wait,
with what
hold
you
on, you
said.
didn't finish what
no,
you were
that's it,
saying.
I'm done.
He's
You're done?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm only saying, I'm
Surprise.
not disagreeing with Doug, but then we should take a look at the administrative code and make a change. Because right now, I think what we said was we would put strong in-house candidate. You know, if we felt that was, you know, the case. But otherwise, change the administrative code.
Yeah.
I'm not adverse to that.
I would not, again, you know, on one level, we could argue it's bureaucratic, but I think the administrative code is right. I think that there's always, and I think this applies to diversity issues and all sorts of things, that we're always subject to doing things without being open about it and playing old boys network and all of that. I think there is some just value in saying, when we have appointment season, these are the appointments. I'm perfectly fine putting strong internal candidate, but I think we are better served in the long term to have a consistent process.
Agreed.
Agreed.
That's independent of the term of it.
I
I'm
am
happy
not
to-
suggesting we have an inconsistent process.
No, I know, well, right.
I'm
I
just,
think if we're gonna advertise, we'd like have to put flowers around it, make it really appealing, make it broad, like
Not this
stand
time
out.
around.
all you have to
Throwing it
do
in the
is
paper.
offer stones.
Do we have
Yeah.
anything else?
Yes, I also sent you invitation for the Massachusetts Association of County Commissioners,
Again.
December 8 in New Bedford. I know Tristan said he is interested, anybody else, they would like a count by the end of the week.
Any of you guys gonna
Nope.
go?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
What about,
Nope,
I mean, I really thought the one in Barnstable
was
was
good, it was
helpful.
great, yeah.
The one we attended by Zoom was less so because the Zoom connection was not great. I think I mentioned to them that they don't have enough microphones, but,
yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be around, so, no.
I think, what are these, quarterly? Is that what it is?
No, they honestly are not.
Ad hoc.
something-
Sometimes, yeah.
It's usually one or two a year usually.
I mean, if it was one or two a year, I'd say we should make it our business to make sure at least two of us go, but this is the wrong time of year to have another meeting.
All right, well,
Anything else, Martina?
Tristan, so
Free
Tristan
trip to
can,
New
Are
Bedford.
you
huh?
going to attend?
What? And a free, you're gonna get passed out a free trip
if
to
you
New
want me
Bedford?
to, I mean,
I don't
Well,
really.
it would be, I'd love to.
I am around, so if you want me to, I can go.
All right, you two, take it
I don't
offline.
want any of you.
Figure it out.
Take it
Any of you-
offline.
I'm not going.
All right, new business. Martina, you have anything? Anything else, or we on to new business? I just have something about Eastville Beach. Tristan and I are meeting with conservation people
Great.
from Oak Bluffs to talk about the jetty there, which is definitely in need of work. So, gonna do that.
Yeah, they do
know
just
if
a
there's
PS to the commissioners, what's happening is, and it's happening rapidly.
You told us this last time.
Yeah,
I did?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm old, what can I say? I repeat myself.
that's okay. We're gonna keep
I
you in
think
check.
you were repeating yourself when you were younger.
Probably so.
I'd move to adjourn. Or do I make a motion?
Oh, please do.
I would like to make a
We have
motion
a
to
motion and a
adjourn.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Madam
Opposed?
Chair.
Nay.
Good meeting.
Thank you all.
All right.
Ma'am.
Tina.